Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear beloveds. Hi. So lovely to see you. Must be quite late for you, Lindsay. I'm glad you're in bed.
It's early.
It's early. It's early. Okay, time zones. Don't worry about me. It's late
4:30,
for me. Fourth.
4:30, and my son just got home, so we had a nice little exchange in the kitchen.
Well, you got to hang out with your kids, so
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for being here, everyone. Some familiar faces and some new faces. I am very grateful to see you all for the last in the masterclass series for our 10th birthday, the Hermetic Principles. And tonight is technically August here in Australia or everywhere now. If it's 4:30 in the morning for Lindsay, then we've probably clicked over. So technically we're not in our birthday month, but I wanted to squeeze in one more masterclass. So this is it. And we are looking at the Hermetic Principles, the three first principles. There are 7 in total. The first 3 are immutable, which means they don't change. The rest are mutable, which means as human evolution evolves, that they will become obsolete. So everything I do in my work with the Hermetic Principles is with the first 3 laws that do not change, regardless of how evolved we become as a species. And I sent out a little email yesterday, which some of you might have seen, and I asked the question, are you under psychic attack? Which, if you know me and you know my work, is quite a provocative question. And I can see a little smile on Bhavna's face. She might know the punchline of where we're going with this, but I decided that we would focus our understanding of the 3 immutable laws around this idea of psychic attack. And it's going to be our metaphor, if you like, or our example of how we can understand these 3 laws, because like all knowledge, even occult sealed wisdom that has only been really shared in written form in the last 100 years or so, that when we can see it working in our own life, we can understand it in a lot more of a practical way. And I'm excited to jump into all of this because I have some big ideas on the subject of psychic attack and energy protection and all of these things that often will fall into, I guess, the more new age trinkety superstition-y stuff. So I have some strong ideas, and I hope by the end of this hour you're going to feel a lot more equipped if you feel if there is anything going on untoward in your life, and more importantly, how to create the reality you want to be living in. When we understand these laws, when we're initiated into them, we have the keys to understanding our best lives, how to work with the fabric of the universe, and how to build the reality we want to be living in. So, as always, if you want to drop in the comments where you are, I'd love to hear it. We're a smaller group tonight. Thank you to the 80 or so people who registered. I will be sending out this recording tomorrow so you can watch the replay. And of course, for those of you who are here live, I will be giving away one more prize as part of our 10th birthday celebration, which is a place in my brand new, most exciting thing that I have created in a little while, which is the Spiritually Fierce Collective. And the Spiritually Fierce Collective officially launches tomorrow. I'll email you with the winner chosen by a random number generator from those of you who are here live tonight. But the Spiritually Fierce Collective is intimate small group mentoring. Now, I love spiritual mentoring. It's a big part of my work. But for private mentoring, I'm booked out till 2025. And I have felt this agitation of like, well, I want to serve and I want to show up for people, but there's no more room in my calendar to do it in that way. So I have created a collective, the Spiritually Fierce Collective, as a way for people who want to be mentored by me to actualize their lives and create the vision and bring it into reality to gather. Now, we are limiting that to 8 people because there's a lot of power in that number. If you're familiar with Lynn McTaggart's work, The Power of 8, we can actually work as a collective far more powerfully to change our realities, to manifest our visions, to heal, to bring around miracles in our life. And she has very potent science around this. So that officially launches tomorrow. Someone here will win a free place in the collective. And I get to show up to mentoring even more people, which is so dear to my heart. So let me just check the comments. Then we're going to go inwards as we always do. And then I'm going to talk to you about UFOs. We're going to start with UFOs and then move on to psychic attack. What have you done with Ricky? She's here, I promise, but it's going to be fun. Melbourne, Milan. Oh, how gorgeous. Hello, Anna. Chicago, Switzerland. Hello, beautiful Annette. Philomena's in Melbourne, Cape Town, breezy Brisbane. You're lucky you're not in freezing Melbourne. It was 11 degrees Celsius in my bedroom this morning. In my bedroom. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's cold. It's cold. Central Coast. Hello, gorgeous Naomi. And the Gold Coast, Mama Angelique. I've been having fantasies about flying up to you. Ellie's in Melbourne. Hello, beautiful Topaz in Melbourne as well. See, she's cold. She's in a blanket. We're cold down here. Beautiful. And Genevieve in Brisbane. Thank you, everyone. So let's begin where we always begin. If you're safe and comfortable to do so, closing down the eyes or softening the gaze. And as you do that, just beginning to notice your beautiful body just exactly as she is right now, perhaps bringing some gentle, intuitive movement, shoulder rolls, neck rolls, side bends, just welcoming your body into this space, giving yourself permission to be here. You signed up, you're online, you're with me, you're in this amazing collective right now. We're already increasing the potency of everything we do when we gather with like-minded souls. But just honoring your beautiful body. Maybe you want to rub your chest, your neck, your shoulders, and just give this body some love, inviting it into presence, welcoming yourself into this ever-present now, inviting all the parts of you to arrive. And as you're ready, you can find your version of stillness, whatever that is for you. Taking your time, there's no hurry. And then just bringing a hand to the heart. Just melting into the heart brain, melting away from the cranial brain as we slow down the breath, close down the eyes. We slow down the brainwave state. Just feeling that sense of gratitude for yourself, for carving out this time and space for your more subtle needs in a noisy, busy world that demands so much of you. It can be very hard to attend to these more subtle aspects of yourself. Just honoring your efforts as I honor you, giving me the blessing of your time. And then bringing the hands into receptivity mudra, palms facing upwards in front of the heart, as though you're holding a precious offering. And here you can set your personal intention, your sankalpa, for being here now. Perhaps it's something you already know or something that emerges from your heart in this moment. We offer all the karmic fruits of our time together to you, dear God, dear Goddess, to the sublime, the divine, the eternal. Folding the palms into Anjali Mudra, prayer position at the heart. And we dedicate our practice to the liberation of all sentient beings everywhere. May peace prevail on earth as it prevails within us. And that I honor all of my teachers, including Mama Angelique, who's here with me now, past and present, local and non-local, who have brought me to this place where I may be of service to you. And we honor these laws that are unceasingly guiding our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. We bow to this ancient wisdom in deepest reverence. Take a breath together here, inhaling through the nose, sighing it out through the mouth. Letting go, letting go, letting go. Once more, bringing some gentle movement to the body. And as you're ready, and only when you're ready, blinking open your eyes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. So, UFOs. Let me tell you a story. In the 60s, there was an astrophysicist named Jacques Vallée, a young man who was just starting out on his career. And he would often identify what we know as unidentified flying objects in the skies. And every time he did, he would take it to his superiors, who would routinely destroy the evidence. And he became quite frustrated with this. And the answer that he got from his superiors was simply it would cause too much chaos to let this information go out into the world. So better to just pretend it never happened. And that wasn't good enough for him as a scientist. He was completely impartial about the existence of other life forms, of aliens, of paranormal phenomena. But he was a scientist and he didn't want to be hiding information. So he set about his own independent career. And he is world famous. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. He is a remarkable educator in this space of understanding paranormal phenomena, including UFOs. And he specialized in going to uncontaminated sites where there had been contact events. So UFO sightings or people reporting contact with non-earthly beings. He wanted uncontaminated sites, as in the media hadn't got there, it hadn't turned into a three-ring circus, because he wanted to get people's most pure reporting of their experience. And that's the data that he used to create an algorithm. And he analyzed data for decades. And he came to a very interesting finding. And I'm going to read it to you. I am reading from a book called Bridge Between Worlds. When I open it up, I see it belongs to my mum. Sorry about that. I stole your book. And I've also drawn all over it. But I want to tell you what he discovered about these contact events or these paranormal experiences, because it tells us so much about the three immutable laws that I'm about to share with you. As the spiritual savant Emanuel Swedenborg and the pioneering psychiatrist Carl Jung suggested before him, Dr. Jacques Vallée has suggested that spiritual, supernatural, and extraterrestrial entities and phenomena may originate in some part of the human psyche itself, while in many cases also maintaining their own independent existence. Remember that one. We're going to unpack it. And such sightings or encounters are an intentional, interactive phenomenon. They appear in forms that respond to our needs, hopes, and expectations, even as they shape our beliefs, our myths, our lives, our world, and no doubt, our future. So, why do I want to tell you about Jacques Vallée and his research? That line, that all of the evidence that he found impartially, remembering he had no opinion either way as a good scientist, he simply gathered the data and analyzed it, that these experiences that people had were both generated by their belief, their psyche coming from within themselves, as well as having independent action, right? We know it's been reported that two people in a field looking up at the sky, one will see the UFO, one will not. Is one mad, the other not? What Jacques Vallée is getting at is that the level of perception, the need for the experience to happen, the need to be witnessing something that is going to alter someone's belief about the world, themselves, the nature of reality and the cosmos, is created by a relationship, the inner and the outer working together to line up. We also can think of this in terms of synchronicities, right? Why is someone in the right place at the right time, or the seeming wrong place at the wrong time? What incredible efforts by the universe to line everything up in that way, so that we will have an experience that will alter our perception of reality. Now, I've often said that God will use whatever we provide, whatever the conditions are there, to support our awakening. So we're going to revisit this, but I think that one of the greatest scientists in the world telling us that these events that are documented are both a combination of the inner psyche, the inner perception, and have their own independent action, is one of the most profound ways for us to begin to shift our understanding of reality. And that is what the Hermetic laws do. So, what are the three immutable laws? The law of mentalism, the law of correspondence, and the law of vibration. And I'm going to, of course, explain all of these. Some of them you may know very well, you may have heard of them, you may have even studied them in different contexts. There are many derivatives of these laws. The law of attraction is one of them. It is simply like made up idea around these laws, but these laws are the origins and they are ancient. So they are attributed to Hermes. Hermes is a Hellenistic god, although the origins of Hermes are probably more likely to be Thoth, who is an Egyptian god, far older. And when, with time and history and the merging of civilizations, effectively Thoth was merged into Hermes. And the idea that Hermes, or Thoth, is this wise sage. Some said he's not even a god, he's a man, but over time he became a god or a demigod. But really, in the sense of all of this, it's irrelevant to me. It's just that this wisdom is ancient. And until the beginning of the 20th century, it had only ever been shared, as much occult wisdom was, orally. It was never written down. It was handed from teacher to initiate. And then in the early 20th century, it was published in a text that you can go and download on the internet right now called the Kybalion, published anonymously by the three initiates. So much occult wisdom that had been never published, never written down, was revealed around that time. It was a real turning point in human civilization. And these ideas gained currency, but they had been popular far earlier. So basically, Hermes was pretty much a contender for, or in competition with Jesus and the teachings of Jesus in terms of popularity. Hermeticism was rampant in its like people's appetite for it in medieval times, and then as the church clamped down on it more and more, it became sort of like hidden knowledge. In the Renaissance, it reemerged again, and it became something that people got very excited about. But the idea of these three laws is that you will find them in every faith, every religion. They are pervasive. They belong not to one place or time. And they have been spread like wildfire because they are truth. In our contemporary age, these laws are evidenced and can be demonstrated by quantum physics. We may not get time to go into the quantum tonight, but we will certainly be considering how these things can be applied and how we can understand them in our own life. So give me a little wave if you have heard of the Hermetic laws before. Yeah. Perhaps you've studied them, perhaps you've hung out with me before. That's certainly something I bang on about a lot. And in fact, if you are keen, I do go into them in quite a detailed way in Spiritually Fierce, which is the first book which you can find in most online publishers. But most of us will have at least heard these laws. What matters to me is that we don't just know about them, but we're willing to be the humble students of them. Because when we are willing to sit at the feet of these laws, we have the keys to our freedom. We understand the functioning of reality, and we understand how to participate in the participatory universe. We live in a participatory universe. We are always creating reality, except for mostly we do it unconsciously. Yes. So we think we're reacting to things that are happening outside of our control, but that is not the case. So I want to give you a little bit of an understanding of the three laws and then apply it to this concept of psychic attack so we can begin to understand with a fairly juicy example how these laws function. So the law of mentalism, first law. By the way, I'm not a slide person, as my students will tell you. I will provide you with some visuals when I send out the email tomorrow. But if you like to take notes as you're learning, please do. If you want to listen and come back later and write things down, you can. This is much more interesting to me that I can see you and you can see me, and we can have this energetic exchange. Even being here now in this collective, even if you're not live, if you're watching the replay, we aren't just learning about these laws from the mental level. We're actually inviting them to begin to encode us or deepen our relationship with them so they become more real, more active, and more alive. The law of mentalism is the first immutable law, and it's a big one. It's the biggest one. In fact, if we stopped here, we'd be all right. The law sounds pretty complex, but it basically has two parts to it. And it states that all is of the one mind, or what I call the God mind. It doesn't really matter if you believe in God or not. Think of like the infinite, if that is easier for you, or just keep hanging around with me and then you'll love the word God because I'll help you get over all your past trauma with religions. God is the infinite, unlimited consciousness that predates us. That is the milky ocean from which we all emerged. All is of the God mind. Everything that is manifest in reality in the material plane is from the mind of God. The second part of the law states that all is created by mind or consciousness, right? So all is of the God mind. We can also think of this as all is one. There is only one consciousness. And the second part is that all is created by the mind. So the objections I often hear around this is like, okay, so if we're all in the mind of God, why is it such a shit show, Ricky? Why is everything crazy? Why is my life out of control? Why? Like, you don't need to look far to find examples of things that feel pretty ungodly in the big picture of the world and in our own lives, right? So you're saying everything is of God? Okay, yes. But in becoming manifest, we were given by this infinite consciousness absolute free will. to create as gods. We can think of the image or the idea of the holograph here. The part contains the whole. So we are an aspect of the God mind, not smaller, not greater, all is equal in that. And we have been given the power of gods to create. That is the second part of the law. All is created by the mind or consciousness. We will often collapse the mind into the idea of the brain, and that is not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is all is created by consciousness. And so we have been given the power to manifest this material reality as gods, and we don't know it. So we feel like we're living in a world that has been created outside of us and that we're just inheriting. And that is nothing could be further from the truth. So we live in what we could often consider a nightmare. For many of us, it is a nightmare. For many of us, it's wonderful. For many of us, it is both things every day, like heaven, hell, right? It often feels like great polarities are playing out in our life. But we are not simply responding to something that's happening objectively outside of us. We are the manufacturers of that reality. Now, the reason why we have been given free will is to learn that we are God, to remember that we are God. The reason why we have created largely a nightmare of human experience on this planet is because we were not then initiated, or we have not remembered that we have the capacity to change what we are participating in. It is a participatory universe. It is always in communication, which we'll get to more of when we talk about the second law. So, along with that free will, we also must understand that all is one. So, we have free will, but we're not actually acting independently. We are acting as part of the collective consciousness. But just today, someone told me that HeartMath Institute have released research that has been many years in the making, which now evidences our individual capacity to influence that field. So they've been putting special devices all over the world and gathering this data to see how individual or group energy influences the unified field. Now, for a moment, if we turn to quantum physics will explain to us that everything is part of a unified field, that there is only oneness, and that can be demonstrated by science, that we are all bathed in a field of energy, and everything that we contribute to that field is then part of that field. We are never acting in isolation. We are always participating in the co-creation of the reality that we witness. So there's no point yelling at the TV and telling everyone how terrible the politicians are or how awful life is, because then that is simply your offer. That is your contribution to this unified consciousness. Now, does that mean I have to walk around only thinking happy thoughts all the time and bypassing my horrible, scary, nightmarish thoughts? Absolutely not. That would also be a betrayal of this shared collective experience. And we're going to talk about what that means and how to work with that when we get to the third law, the law of vibration. How are we all doing? Any questions so far? All good? Feeling good? I hope so. I love this stuff. I hope you feel as excited as I do about all of this. The second law, the law of correspondence, is like a communication law. So we know this law by the very famous adage, as within, so without, as above, so below. Everyone heard that one before? Yeah. Those statements are pretty well known in the world. And again, it's one thing to know them, it's another thing to live them. So what this law, the law of correspondence, is telling us is that what we hold within us, we will manifest in exact likeness in our external reality or the material plane that we see outside of us. And so again, there's a understanding of the participatory nature of reality. Again, the creation is not happening from the reasoning conscious mind. It isn't happening from I'm just going to be happy and think happy thoughts and never go into bad thoughts because I'm going to stay happy, happy, happy all of the time. That's an impossible task. That's my definition of a nightmare. That is the idea that we always have to hold this like really, really fluffy, bubbly thought. It is a failure of understanding the human experience. But when we understand that it is not about individual thoughts, but the dominant program that we're running, we start to feel empowered to make a change. Is the dominant program within my subconscious a program of the world is terrifying, everybody's out to get me, I am in danger, nothing is good, everybody's going to hell, like it's a terrible, terrible world? Or is the dominant program, I am one with the mind of God, I am a divine piece of that God mind, everything is working out on my behalf, and I can still have a shitty day, right? I can still have a day where I'm shaking my fist at God. If the dominant program is that second belief that things are always working out on my behalf, then that is the contribution to the field. The important thing about this law is that it is very much a communication, right? So like attracts like. You've heard that before as well. As within, so without. And so we are very much not just putting stuff out there, but we are then drawing back towards us whatever we are holding within ourselves. The important thing again here, I'm just going to reiterate, is not this level, the mind, the conscious mind. The conscious mind knows nothing. It's the subconscious basement, that 90% of the iceberg below the water that is doing the creation. And so our job here again is not to just repeat affirmations that we have no belief in. It will not change anything. What changes it is our feeling state, the vibration. And this brings us to the third law, the law of vibration. The law of vibration tells us that everything is in motion. Nothing is static. So again, when we look to understanding what science can tell us, even at the level of the tiniest part of you, the subatomic particle is not a particle at all. It is a wave. It is a wave that generates a field. And that field is a field within the field of the atom. And then we keep getting bigger and bigger. We're in the field of the cell and we keep getting bigger, the field of the body. And even the universe has a field. And that is the field that we are all part of. So this is science. There is nothing static or solid about the universe or us. And when we start to think in those terms, what becomes possible is the capacity for change. If everything is in a state of movement, nothing is solid and fixed, no matter how heavy this emotion feels or this terrible event is sitting on my shoulders, weighing me down, everything is always in a state of change. And that change is what allows my evolution. So the law of vibration is the one that will often be taught in a kind of watered down way as the law of attraction. So when we think of vibration, as I've said at the beginning, the first law states all is created by the mind. What I mean by that is all is created by consciousness. Consciousness is frequency of vibration, okay? We live in an energetic reality. Nothing is solid. Everything is energy. Everything is in motion. And what is directing that energy is the frequency of the vibration. So we can harness this superpower by altering our own vibration. And the way we do that is to alter our feeling state. All right? It's not about a good or bad day, a good or bad thought, even a good or bad month. It's about the dominant program. Sorry, my dog is now going to growl. Did you like that point, Bowie? No growling, please. And our job is to learn how to master vibration by mastering feeling state, because that is what is creating reality. Okay, that is a very big overview of the three laws. There is a lot more detail that I could go into, but I just want to give you that refresher perhaps, or an introduction to it, as I said, there's a lot more resources available. You can find them free out there in the world. You can read them in Spiritually Fierce. I can share more with you, but I want to just give you that overview. And now I want to apply it to this idea of psychic attack so that we can see it in our own lives. Okay. So let's say that there is someone out there in the world who you have wronged in their perception, or someone you feel has wronged you. It doesn't really matter. It may be someone known to you, or it may be the idea that there's a group of people who just don't like you because you've said something about them on the internet and they saw it and they think it's terrible. But there's somewhere in there in the world, there's an event or experience in your life where someone or a group of someone's has an opinion of you that means that they are directing negative thought towards you. Now, as we said, thought is energy or consciousness. So it is able to travel through intention and attention anywhere at any time. And I will just say very quickly here, again, not wanting to go into quantum physics too much just now, but the idea of quantum entanglement is that there is a relationship between particles at a distance that do not have to have any prior physical contact. So in other words, time and space are irrelevant. So we can think of this through examples like Reiki. When someone says, I'll give you some distance Reiki, it's a redundant statement to say distance Reiki in a quantum reality, but the idea is they're going to send you some good vibes, right? You're going to feel better. The idea with a psychic attack is that someone is sending you bad vibes. A psychic attack versus you just pissed off the driver in the other lane by cutting them off and they are cursing you and then they drive off and forget about you, is that a psychic attack is something we would consider sustained over time with intention and attention. There is a direction of lower frequency feeling towards you with the intention of causing you harm. Anyone ever felt like they were under psychic attack? Abso-freaking-lutely. I have absolutely been 100% convinced that there was someone out to get me, to derail me through whatever reason. And in this particular case where I did have this feeling, it was because there had been an interaction in which both of us felt wronged. And I was afraid. I was afraid for my institute. I was afraid for my legacy. I was afraid for what I had created. And I knew this other person was very powerful. And because I was in fear, all of my guards were down, right? And I was in a space where you might say it would be more likely to become vulnerable to that other person's sustained negative beliefs or energy or attitude towards me. Do I have ever any evidence whatsoever that I was actually under psychic attack? None whatsoever. But shit was going wrong. And I was afraid. And I was looking for something outside of me to take responsibility for things not working as they should. And in my fear of lack, my fear of loss, my fear of rejection, my fear of abandonment, I lowered my frequency. Okay? And that frequency is my protection. I'm getting there. I'm getting to the good bit. Don't you worry. It's okay to believe that there are people out there who hold shitty ideas about you, because it's probably true, right? If you're pleasing everyone all of the time, you're doing something wrong in this life. And as I said in my email I sent out yesterday, I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm the messenger of the stuff that most people don't want to hear. So I get it. Like, I would be a prime target for people having shitty feelings. And I have experienced that a lot. And normally it does not touch me, right? It does not even find a spot to anchor. But in this particular situation, I was so afraid, and it went on for such a long time that I wore myself out. right? I didn't have that innate protection that is normally there for me because I cultivate a life that encourages the highest vibrational feeling state as my natural set point. Again, frequency, vibrational frequency created by feeling is not the same as pretending to be happy all the time, because that is actually not going to work. We're in the mind of God, as if we can, fake it to God. We cannot fake it to God. So, what did I have to do in this case where I believed that there was someone intentionally in a sustained way trying to cause me harm? I had to go meet that fear. I had to sit in the shit. I had to, instead of running or buying 40,000 crystals or drinking green smoothies or doing any of the salts and the things and the whatever superstitions you may have heard around this stuff, I had to sit with my fear. Everything in the mind of God is serving my awakening, and everything is in the mind of God. So, psychic attack or not, this was showing me a really beautiful blind spot that I had where I was living in fear. And that was gold. That was medicine. And so when I finally got over myself and stopped imagining that someone was trying to destroy my life and my business, I sat with my fears and I said, okay, what have you got to tell me? And I let my fears talk to me, because fear is intuition. Fear is a form of intuition. It is a friendly ally. The subconscious programs I was running were saying, hey, we need some attention. And I just happened to get this really great opportunity to get to know myself better, humbly sit with my fears, use my tools, and elevate my frequency. Not once, but consistently, like working a muscle. And as soon as I did that, as soon as I got over the idea that I was under attack and realized that all is one, therefore all is me, therefore I'm attacking myself, I changed everything, right? There is only one of us here. If I'm under attack, I am attacking myself. If I am vulnerable to that attack, it's because there's fear that needs attention, because I have forgotten I am one. I have forgotten I am one. Now, as I said, this is really important to understand that this is happening at the subconscious level. So often it will take a disrupting, disturbing external event, like believing you're under psychic attack, to bring it to our conscious attention, right? It took probably weeks of me being like a paranoid freak going, I'm under attack, to finally go, oh, I'm in fear. Fear is always my intuition trying to get my attention, saying, hey, babe, you forgot yourself. And so I did the work and I met that fear. Now, if that person is out there sitting in there with their dolls, putting pins in me, God bless them, because I am no longer available, because I am not vibing at that frequency. I am untouchable. That is not a match, right? Like attracts like, as within, so without. If I'm in fear, I will attract fear. Yes, I was a magnet for scary, terribly paranoid thoughts, beliefs, ideas. Who cares if that person was actually doing it or not? That person is actually part of me. So the more I heal the wound within me, the more I heal the wound within them, and also in the collective. That was my task. And it has not happened since then. And that was probably about 7 years ago. There's a lot of noise in this space, negative thought forms, evil eyes, hexes, someone's put a curse on you, all of this stuff. You can even find people who you can pay to remove those hexes and curses. That's a good side hustle. If anyone needs a side hustle in the spiritual world, I detect there is an evil eye or a curse on you. Let me remove it for you. That will be $50. Right? We're playing into the fear that we do not have the authority or the power. When we understand the law of vibration, we understand that vibrational frequency is not about your mood in a day. It is about the inner dominant frequency that you are vibrating at. Okay, so if we think about vibrational frequency is again science, right? So if you imagine there's a pole here and something is moving around it, the faster that thing is moving around the pole is the frequency. Yes? Like your fan, if you one is that speed, two is that speed, three is the fastest speed, right? That is the frequency. So we are simply holding a higher and lighter frequency. I can still be in grief and mourning and aware of fears and hold a very high frequency if I make the decision to do the damn work, as within, so without, to elevate the inner program, the narrative that I'm running, and to remember the first law: I am one with the mind of God. I am a divine piece of a benevolent universe that is always working on my behalf, even when I don't understand it. That is my protection. And yes, if I stop doing my devotion, if I stop creating time and space in my day to be humble, to sit in prayer, to sit in contemplation, to honor and feel gratitude for what I see around me in the world, there's a good chance that my vibration is going to drop, right? This word that I'm going to drop on you now is the answer to all of this: congruence. Congruence is this idea that we are a match between our faith and our actions in the world. There is no point saying, yeah, I'm totally on the spiritual path, all is one, we're all children of God, and then be like, oh my God, did you see what Samantha was wearing today at work? That fat bitch should not be wearing those clothes, right? Lower the vibration. We've gone into judgment. We've gone into separation. So when you feel that you might be under psychic attack, look to where you are attacking. Now, you might think casually commenting on Samantha's clothes is not the same as someone sitting in a room with a voodoo doll sticking pins in it, but you are still judging, and that judgment is the cause of separation, and separation is the cause of the nightmare of the reality we're all living in. Because if we truly felt that everything, all life, was an aspect of us, would we treat the world the way we treat it? No. Life would be sacred and precious, right? So where we feel we're under attack, look to your own actions. As within, so without. The world is a mirror. And when we are devoted to holding the highest vibrational frequency, not a superficial good mood that is actually lying to ourselves, but genuinely, like, I can sit with the grief, the rage, the sadness, the pain, and also know that this is all working on my behalf. That is mastery. We are no longer looking for external evidence to determine our inner state of being. Do you hear what I'm saying? You are no longer looking for external evidence to determine your inner state of being. You are self-generating your inner state of being. You are cultivating a reality. And that reality that you cultivate within will literally change the reality you participate in around you. How are we doing? Feeling good? I know this one is quite talky. That's just going to be the way it is. I'd need you for another 3 hours if we were going to not be just having me talk. But it's good, right? We're gonna learn this. We're gonna understand it. I'm going to share practices with you when I send out the recording tomorrow. But the idea so much here comes down to the idea of perception and personal responsibility. When I meet someone who is very afraid and very much in that belief that they're under psychic attack, that there's someone out to get them, or there's negative thought forms, or there's energy beings chasing them, or whatever it is, those people will often feel like the victims of reality, the victims of other people's choices. They do not want to take the personal responsibility that makes them look to their own actions, behaviors, thoughts, words, deeds in the world, right? It's all somebody else's fault. And And if that is the perception we're holding, then we will be in a world of chaos, of victimhood, because we are not taking that personal responsibility. But that personal responsibility is the freedom, the responsibility to know that I am God. I am one with the mind of God. And my job then is to meet all the blocks and obstacles in my perception to that truth, right? That's the task. These things show up not to punish us or test us or because there are bad people doing bad things in the world. Everything exists. We got free will. Everything exists. You thought it exists. Every bad, terrible, wicked thing, it's true in that level of perception of reality. Everything exists. We got that. All is of the mind. If it has been thought, it has happened. That does not mean that the world is not also magnificent and beautiful and glorious and full of light and possibility of revolution and change and awakening. Where we choose to attune our perception, will determine our experience of reality, but also the quality of our offer to reality as a co-creation. Going back to Jacques Vallée's words, right? The level of perception determined the experience. Byron Katie talks about this in another example from this book, which is a beautiful book, Bridge Between Worlds, where when she first awakened and she had a very sudden enlightenment experience, it happened very rapidly, like overnight, from a dark night, no prior spiritual awareness whatsoever. And she began to sort of come back to being able to function in the world after this. Enlightenment happened very rapidly. And initially she said, you know, her guide was this old lady with a bun in a rocking chair, wrapped in her shawl, because that is who she could trust. That was her spiritual guide. And as her evolution continued, or her capacity to participate in the world increased, she needed no guide, because all was the guide. All was God. And she saw no separation. There was no need to manifest an angel or a fairy or a deva or a spirit animal. All was God to her perception. But she began with this lovely, safe old lady guide who could feel what she needed to feel, to give her the conditions to cultivate that feeling state. And then she could continue evolving her consciousness to that oneness. So Jacques Vallée saying, you know, we see what we need to see. We see what we need to see in order to continue our awakening. So we might judge negative thought forms or the feeling of psychic attack or energy beings chasing us, you know, through the astral planes as bad. But if that's what you need to awaken, that's what you're going to get, right? I would much prefer to awaken through the gods and goddesses and the infinite consciousness of the God mind. And I spend my time reminding myself of who I truly am and elevating my frequency to that level. So I don't really at all have a connection to lower thought forms or astral planes or any of the stuff that people talk about. For them, it's very real. For me, I don't need it. For someone who is, you know, focused on UFOs or aliens or having that contact experience will be the thing that triggers their awakening. And Jacques Vallée says that people very often after those experiences change their lives for the better in every way. Same as near-death experiences, right? I had a session with a client today, and out of the blue, she started talking about psychic attacks. She didn't know about this event. And she said to me, Ricky, why is it so often that people are afraid of the unseen, the energetic, when every person that you know of who's had a near-death experience comes back to tell you about the light? the benevolence, the love that they felt on the other side? Why are we so afraid of the unseen? And I believe the answer to that is because no one initiated us into the truth that we are energy in motion. We have the power to direct consciousness through cultivation of feeling state. And that we do that not by avoiding the shadows, but going towards them and saying, what do you got? Come on, awaken me. To put our head in the lion's mouth, to stop protecting ourselves, which is the greatest act of separation. You bad, me good, bubble of white light, separate myself from you, right? Bad world out to get me. Gotta put my very sensitive, empathic self in a bubble so no one can touch me. Everything is God. And if I perceive that and I walk around the world in that perception, then everything changes. Benevolence prevails. And if something bad happens according to my perception of good or bad, if I'm humble enough to sit with that as a teaching opportunity, as what God has used to support my awakening, I will stop judging it as good or bad. I might just go, cool, got that one. Hey, God, next time let's go a little higher frequency in how we offer awakening experiences, right? I hope this feels useful to you to understand you are one with the mind of God. You are creating your reality from consciousness or energy directed by your vibration, your feeling state, and that there is no bullshitting. As within, so without, right? As within, so without. We cannot avoid that truth. The shift in perception we need to be making is that willingness to see ourselves as God sees us, to see that we are part of a benevolent consciousness that's always working on our behalf. And that in the grand scheme of things, there is no good or bad event. When we move beyond ego, beyond the human identity, when we eventually shuffle off these mortal coils, we will look back and recognize there was simply opportunity to awaken. Did I use that opportunity or did I run in the other direction? So if you feel you're under psychic attack, the very most potent and powerful thing you can do is ask, what is the meaning of this for me? How is it serving me? Maybe I do need to take more responsibility for the words I use, the thoughts I have about others, my own judgy little self. Maybe I have reparations to make. Maybe I have harmed others. And now I'm like all innocent and like, wow, why is this happening to me? Maybe we need to sit humbly at the feet of our fears and ask, what do you want me to know? Not maybe, definitely. It's a definite. Wherever we're in fear, intuition is there. It is inviting us. It's tapping us on the shoulder saying, hey, you forgot. Your perception has just lowered a little to forget that you are God made manifest, one with the mind of God, and that your power to create is no less than God's. But it doesn't happen when we're random. It doesn't happen when we think one good thought and then like go back into our nightmare of separation. It doesn't happen when we judge others as being lesser than. It doesn't happen when we break any of these laws in any ways. There's no greater teaching than these laws for me. There's no better way for me to navigate my life. And when I remember that, when I embody these laws, I see everything working to the highest possible good for my life. Does that mean everything is always easy? Hell no. That is not the same as everything working to the highest possible blessing in my life. I know these are a lot of words. I'm so grateful for your willingness to let me just talk. There was no other way I was going to get this done in an hour. But if there is something that you could do to take away from this right now to ensure that you are not vulnerable to psychic attack or your own shitty thoughts, take an audit of everything you're afraid of. Just write it all down. Write it all down. Stream of consciousness, put it all down on paper, and then offer it to God, offer it to the higher part of you. Make an offering of that fear and ask, what do you need me to know? beyond my resistances, my judgments, my victimhood, my whatever sabotage programs. What do you want me to know? And when we are willing to put our head in the lion's mouth and take that personal responsibility, God loves an action taker. And we will find that the energy just starts to shift, right? We are not doing this on our own. We're doing this in oneness. And we can stop running from our own lives and creating all of these barriers, these separations, these ideas of protection, that there's something bad out there trying to get us. There is only us out there in 7 billion different forms. There is only God in here. And when we start to practice that, noticing the judgments, the separations, we can free ourselves from suffering. I think that's probably all I want to say right now. I know that, again, it's many words, but I would love for you to share anything right now about what that has inspired for you, or if you want to punch me in the face or tell me anything at all about what has come up for you, if there's anything you want to share. And I will happily stick around to chat with anyone who can stay longer. This stuff cannot be learned once. That's the last thing I'll say. We have to remind ourselves again and again and again. So that is why I create opportunities. The programs the Institute runs are all built on the Hermetic laws, the teachings of the laws. The Spiritually Fierce Collective group mentoring that we launch tomorrow will be built around the laws for the creation of a new reality. It's in my books. It's every part of what I do, because I need the constant reminder, right? I am the recipient of everything I offer. I need to hear this again and again and again. And it gets easier, please believe me, over time, to recognize when you've collapsed into the fear and you're not seeing the wood for the trees. It gets easier to pull yourself out of that by altering your vibration. Now it's over to you. You can bite me. You can argue with me. You're so welcome.
I'll go.
Thank you, gorgeous Topaz.
Thank you for the remembrance.
I know you got this, sister.
Yeah, it was good just to yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got this.
I forgot. You
Yeah.
know, you get sucked back down in, and then you go, oh yeah, I needed that. So that was awesome. Like, that hour was so beneficial to the next day.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I know that you'll shift that energy like that, but you know.
Thanks for the shift. Thanks for the shift in perception.
Yeah.
We're good at that.
It's all it is, baby. Yeah, you're amazing. You absolutely got this. Bhavna says, so much. Sit in my fear, not just with it. What I see outside of me is a mirror. There's only one of us here. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Annette.
And I just want to add, and you know all the backstories, of course. And I had been wanting to go back to the Hermetic laws, but the days would just take over. But nonetheless, and I knew that I had to be here. So when I saw it, I was like, I need this reminder. And I think just so many layers to this, because sometimes, it's when we are in a situation, or when we are under psychic attack, for example, what you were talking towards in this class, we might look at the negative and we might say, oh, the negative is also inside me, but there might be something positive in the situation as well. And that goodness is also there because of me. So it is the negative. Sometimes we might be overly critical about ourselves because some situation has been so tough. But I think it's also a reminder that if there was anything good out of it, if there was anything that came good out of it, was also because that goodness is within you. And
yeah,
and we can shift everything like that. I mean, not like that, but yeah, like that.
It can be like that, right? I love that. I love that because it, you know, it works in both ways. You know, we can so often identify ourselves as the victim, but we'll be so unwilling to see ourselves as the perpetrator, right? Like, actually, maybe what you're offering to the world, quietly or out loud, it doesn't matter, is a bit shitty right now, right? Maybe you are very judgy. And actually, maybe that is the housekeeping that we need to tend to, right? So that willingness, like, to not judge ourselves, but just to sit with it, accept it. Oh yeah, I've been vibing pretty low, right? I've been in a lot of bad thoughts about things. I can shift that. But I love that idea, yeah, that it is all in there. It's not even good or bad. It's like shadow and light, right? This idea that there is just a spectrum. And when we stop judging it, it just is. It's just an expression of God. Maybe it's really hard to see God in it, but God's still in it. Yeah. I see the comments. Thank you for sharing. Like all in the universe, this came at the absolute perfect time for me. I'm so happy to hear that. Me too. Me too. Everything working to the highest possible blessing in my life. Yes. Even when it sucks, and sometimes it sucks hard, and that's okay too, right? That's okay. It just might take a little more effort and a little more support. And again, you know, I am 100% not into the hard sell of anything, but the idea of gathering in a collective is part of what can support us to remember and to lean into each other. And very often what fear will do is isolate us, right? Like, what do you do when you feel overwhelmed, scared, afraid? Or very often you'll shut everybody else out, including God, because it's too scary, or there's too much shame, or there's too much whatever. And when we're willing to be witnessed in all of us, when we're willing to be in this space, for example, and be in a collective experience, it shifts so much more powerfully. It's science. It's exponentially increased in power. And that is why the ego wants to keep us separate, because we are powerful when we are united. We are so powerful. And the ego will say, no, you got to do this on your own. You got yourself into this mess. You get yourself out of it, right? Or no one will understand me, or whatever the story, like, and it keeps us in isolation as a strategy.
I have a question.
Yes.
The way I'm hearing you speak about this, it feels very much like this is a sort of to live in these higher vibrations. It's about you and your higher power and God and your fears and sitting with them. But despite what has happened outside of you with other people or relationships, or if you're the victim or the perpetrator, etc., how important is it, do you think, to do the reparations, to have the repairs for the past harms? Or is it really just sitting with your fears and shifting your energy into the future?
I think the answer to that question is in the question, because it's kind of one and the same, right? In a way, very often, you know, we work with a lot of forgiveness practices in the Institute. The forgiveness has to happen internally. And I don't just mean for yourself, for the other. Like, you make the reparations energetically. Because everything is quantum, then doing it in the 3D is sort of like immaterial. Or you will do the true forgiveness and work through that at the energetic level, and then you'll have clarity. Do I now need to take action in the world? Do I now need to follow up with the person in real life? Very often that's not the case, because time has moved on. It could cause more pain to the other person, or it's just no longer relevant, right? And I think it's important for us to do that energetic forgiveness, end of judgment, acceptance process at the true level, which is the inner state, because all is one. So it's all happening inside of you before you make any decisions about the external, because very often we'll want to do the material reparations because it's like easier. I can just go and say sorry to that person, or I can just pay the money, or whatever the problem might be. And we might get a relief, like when guilty people, like people who cheat, like confess to their partners. So often that's not about making the partner have knowledge. It's about trying to get the guilt out of themselves, right? So we're actually just poisoning the other person with that energy rather than actually taking responsibility. So I think it's do the work at the energy level, the quantum level. Then you'll know, okay, now do I need to do something in the 3D? And so often that need to take action in the 3D is then moot, right? It doesn't need to be there because the karmic tie is released. It's a great question. And for me, very often the answer's been like both at different times. But I don't think we know until we're taking that first step of the working at the energetic level. Yeah. Thank you for that
Yeah.
question.
Thanks. That's helpful.
Because remember, our perception of reality is very different to, I mean, we're in 7 billion universes. There's like nobody is living the same universe we're living in. And that is because of perception. So what we might think is a really noble gesture, like doing something to make amends, is actually just in their narrative a completely different thing. And so it's very often that understanding that we are not sharing the same, we're not even on the same planet as that person. Like quite literally, we can get into the quantum physics of that another time, but perception is what is real, not, there is no external objective reality. There is no external objective reality. Go look up the double slit experiment and Dr. Quantum, and he'll tell you all about that. The particle will behave in accordance with the perceiver's perception or belief about the behavior of the particle. The particle will change its behavior based on the perception of the believer. Literally, science, hundreds of times they've done that experiment. The particle will change its behavior based on the believer's perception. Freaking mind-blowing, and you can't hear it just once, right? You just got to keep soaking in this stuff because it's so easy to go back to the 3D. How you doing, mama? You're up late. I'm up late. I'm impressed with myself. I'm impressed with Lindsay because it's now like what, nearly 5:45 in the morning for you. But night times, as many of you know, are not my time. But I did all right. Talked a lot, got words out. Impressed. Well done, Ricky. Well done, all of you lot, for making the conditions. Any other final thoughts or reflections? We feel empowered? Yeah, good. I'm very happy to hear it. There is so much more. There is so much more. And I will send out some resources tomorrow. And I'll also share the recipient of the place in the Spiritually Fierce Collective. And I'll share all the details of that. I am so freaking excited about it. I have wanted to be working with the Power of 8 in the creation of reality and enacting, visions for our lives. And yeah, having this opportunity to mentor more people is very cool. So I'll send you all the info. I'm so grateful for you being here with me for this one. And questions at any time, send them through. I'm really happy to keep the conversation going. And you can let me know if you want more. We can go law by law. We can break it down. We can get Bhavna and Sybil, who are now qualified teachers in this work, to come along and they can teach you as well. You would enjoy that, wouldn't you? There's no terror in the thought of, see, no notes. I'm trying to teach everyone never to use tech. I'm like, never use tech. Tech sucks. Apologies to my visual learners. All right. I'm probably just ranting now because it's my bedtime. I'm so grateful to you all. Thank you for being part of the final masterclass of the 10th birthday celebrations of the Institute. And I will see you all somewhere very soon. Mwah. So much love to you all. Bye.